Today, we're cooking our first recipe request. This is from my gyudon video from Monsieur Kex, and he wants us to cook the special mapo tofu dish from the series Food Wars, Shokugeki no Soma. Now, I have to be honest, I've not seen it before, but I found the footage and it was vastly entertaining. It's mapo tofu noodles with a meatball on top. And once you cut into the meatball, there's the moon inside and curry starts to come out from inside the meatball, seasoning the whole dish. It's worth a watch. This is a huge undertaking. I've researched the recipe and I want to show you a version that is home kitchen friendly. First, we need to make the moon, the runny curry inside the solid meatball. Now in the animated series, they claim to have used a beef bone stock with some curry spices, garlic, ginger, with gelatin. For the home kitchen, just like making Vietnamese pho, it's almost impossible to extract enough flavors from beef bones, and certainly not enough gelatin. Veal would be a very good option, but today I want to propose an even more home-friendly alternative. We are simply gonna use poussin or baby chicken. They are full of connective tissue, collagen, and they'll give you a wonderfully tasting chicken broth that solidifies very easily in the fridge. And the cooking time is just significantly shorter than beef bone or making a veal stock. Just as instructed, we add some ginger, we add some garlic, and we top this up with water. We'll bring this to a boil. With poussin, even 1 hour is a lot, but 3 hours will get everything out of them. All the flavors, all the chickeny goodness, and the gelatin. So, I'll see you in 3 hours. After boiling for 3 hours, I let it cool down. I pressed down on the chicken as much as I can, squeezed out all the juices, passed everything through a sieve, and I left this in the fridge to cool overnight. As you can see, this whole thing is now jelly-like, meaning the gelatin of the baby chicken has released into this wobbly stock, and this can hold its own inside the meatball, and the fat has floated to the top. So first things first, we skim off the fat, because we don't need that. The reason why I didn't add the curry directly to the soup is, yes, this is now jelly-like, but once it's heated up, it's very liquidy. To achieve that slow, lava-like texture in the movie, we're going to thicken this by making a Japanese curry roux. First, we'll heat up some of this gooey goodness, and we can save this to make the mapo tofu later. So we'll heat this up on the side. Now, to make the Japanese curry roux, very simple. We have equal part vegetable oil and all-purpose flour. You can also use butter if you want to go really traditional. And just a very typical Japanese curry mix. We have the cumin, the cardamom, the cayenne pepper, and the turmeric. And the cumin and the turmeric is also what's gonna give us that bright orangey color of the moon. Grab a saucepan, stove on, medium-high heat. Once the saucepan is relatively hot, we add our vegetable oil and the flour. We grab my daughter's panda whisk, and you go. And you do it at a pace that you're comfortable with, because we just want a relatively blonde color. So since I did it at relatively high heat, we're halfway there. But if this is your first time making a roux, just do it at low heat. Keep whisking until you're comfortable, then you can play with the heat. And also remember, with something like a thick bottom saucepan, there's a lot of heat retention. Sometimes by the time you want to lower the heat, it's a bit too late. So always plan about 20 or 30 seconds ahead. Beautiful. Now we can introduce our spices. Bit of cumin, look at the color. Bit of cardamom, cayenne pepper, I like them spicy, and the turmeric. Don't go crazy with the turmeric because they're very overpowering. So we'll start with this. As you can see, the color of the roux taken on. Wonderful, wonderful, yellowish, orangey color. Now we have the color and the consistency. We slowly introduce our chicken stock. Once the texture has homogenized, we add a bit more. Perfect texture. It's slightly thick. It coats the back of the spoon. Stove off. Remember, we've not seasoned the moon. A bit of salt at the very end. We give this a bit of time to cool down before we add them to our circular molds. So these are made for ice cube making, which is precisely what we're gonna do. Even though the soup has the ability to gelatinize, because I want to be able to squeeze the mince hard to form the perfect shape that does not leak, I want this to be even harder. We're gonna put these in the freezer, making a perfectly round-shaped ice ball, and tomorrow we'll make the mapo tofu, the noodles, and the meatball. So, I'll see you tomorrow. Alright, day 3. Let's make the meatballs. So the meatballs, they came from his Taiwanese pork bun recipe, which is very simple. We have some pork mince, and to that, we add a very generous amount of black pepper. They're called black pepper pork buns after all. A bit of sake, a bit of soy sauce, light soy sauce that is. He also added sesame oil, but I'm not gonna add it to the mince, and I'll tell you why in a bit. Oyster sauce, Chinese 5-spice powder, and he added 1 egg yolk. But for me, I'm gonna add the whole egg just so that I have more to rely on to keep the moon, the runny middle, intact. So 1 whole egg goes in. And just to make sure they hold together slightly better, I'm gonna add a bit of salt, which is not in his recipe. Now, we just get our hands dirty and we mix. The problem is, they even said it themselves in the series, that this is partly inspired by the Chinese dish, the lion's head, which is famed for falling apart tender. Not really made for holding some liquid in the middle. Straight from the freezer, we have our 2 moons. As I said earlier, the roux would expand a bit, and that's why this one is slightly cracked open. This one looks slightly better. I think we'll first use the better looking one. See where we go from there. I think that's pretty enough. Well, at least we've mastered the color. Now, with my really cold hands, let's do it. So here, by the way, the sesame oil earlier. Here I have 2 bowls in which I'll steam them in. And to prevent sticking, I've added toasted sesame oil to the bottom. So A, they will flavor the meatballs, and B, they will prevent the meatballs from sticking. All right, let's do this. The reason why I froze them is because I want the ability to squeeze the meatball hard. All right, let's hope one of this would work. Boom, in. Shape it, shape it, shape it. So, traditionally, actually, let me put this in the steamer and I'll tell you why. So, traditionally, lion's head, they're either just poached, almost braised, for about 2 hours, or they're first deep fried, then braised. I do not have the balls for either, so I opted for the chicken way. The easy way. I'm steaming them, hoping they will not explode and hoping one of them at least would maintain its shape. But we'll find out in 10-15 minutes. In the meantime, let's cook mapo tofu. They've published a recipe somewhere, but I think this one I'm just gonna do a basic mapo tofu. So stove on, high heat. Once the wok is hot, we add some Sichuan peppercorn. Once they are fragrant, we add them to the pesto mortar, and we add a bit of oil, high smoke point oil of course, to season the wok. Grind the Sichuan peppercorn. First thing, the pork mince goes in, and we cook to brown them. All right, once you have a bit of color, in his recipe I think he used only garlic, but today we're gonna use the holy trinity of Chinese cooking: scallion, garlic, and ginger. Everything goes in. our Sichuan chili bean paste. And you need to cook them out a bit to evaporate the water content. This is where the majority of the seasoning of the dish comes from. Beautiful. Oh, look at this color. A bit of Sichuan style chili oil. Light soy sauce. Remember the chicken broth we saved yesterday? Now, while that's getting back to a boil, we're going to make our thickener. Normally, you mix water with cornstarch, and that's great. I like to minimize the dilution of flavor, so this is dark soy sauce, which goes in anyway. We're gonna mix the dark soy sauce with the cornstarch instead, and we'll use this to thicken it at the very end. Now, once this is back to a boil, this is medium firm tofu. Traditionally, they use silken tofu. I just couldn't find them today. What I did was I put this in the microwave for 2 minutes so that it released all its excess liquid. And now, we carefully add the tofu in. And we gently mix them so that they don't break apart. We let this braise for about 5 minutes, and we'll boil some water for the noodles. Now, we thicken it the first time. You want to do this in stages. Because this is going to go on top of the noodles, you don't want it too thick. Let's plate one, shall we? Oh my god. Well, first we have the easy part. We have the noodles. And then we have a very beautiful mapo tofu. In his version, the tofu was so generous that you couldn't see the noodles. So I think we do the same. Now, let's do it. Well, the top looks good. I'll say that. Oh my god. Say I'm nervous is an understatement. Well, we have 2 attempts at least, so that's always encouraging. Ladies and gentlemen. Of course, scallion everywhere, I remember that. Nothing to lose. Oh my god, look at this. We found the moon, and there you have it. This is Countdown Mapo Curry. I really hope you enjoy. Oh, that was beautiful. Actually, really good. Wow.